Well, Blinn definitely put up a fight, but in the end, it's going to be TSM coming out victorious 13-9 and taking Blinn's map choice away from them. Jift, going into this, I mean, you have this team of TSM that we talked so highly about in a team that's newly promoted into Challengers. So already this is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, but honestly, the fight they put up is quite commendable.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And like we were kind of framing up in the pre-match is like Blinn technically comes into this siege of Challengers as a better ranked collegiate team than Winthrop, who found a win in their first match of the week. So there is something to be said about, you know, not sleeping on this squad in terms of their potential to, you know, be a bit of a dark horse, if you want to call it that. Hard to say it as, you know, a full-on fact, just due to the fact that we're still not maybe sold on the potential what TSM can bring to the table, but we're starting to see it more here, right? Like the first blood executions were great for TSM. When they had problems early on, they had a great timeout to try to figure out that, like, hey, Blinn's contesting us on a lot of these spike plants, so let's just try to really get an extra step forward, make sure we have these sites completely cleared before we go for these wingman plants. And it started to look a little bit better for TSM. It was just when we swapped to the defensive side, the trust that comes through with the individuals, the ability for Sim and Poise to just lock down opening engagements was next level, and that was too much for Blinn to deal with, it felt like.
Yeah, and for Blinn to try to work things out here on the attack was a little bit more difficult to do, right? You talked about the amount of first bloods that were comparable for both teams. A lot of it happened here for TSM on both sides of the factor, and also a lot of them on defense because of Poise. Poise had 4 first bloods on the defensive side because of these side executes that Blinn are trying to do, and they were never able to flush out where Poise was going to be. So that unfortunately gives a good chance now for TSM to continue to anchor out some great portions of the site, having Blinn force them to work towards a different part of the map where they're meeting Sin, for example, or they're just meeting GMD, who is able to walk around the map freely, just getting free strolls and free kills around the map. So Blinn needed to figure out how they wanted to default their rounds a little bit more, and it took a bit. I mean, there was some successes off timeouts when they were able to get some victories through deathballing and just going on a 1 gear, but when they're trying to default a little bit more, it gave a chance for TSM to work around the map more.
I think the other part about that is the post-plant success was just not there for Blinn, even though there were a number of setups that we looked at and said, hey, this is what this should mean. Like that round in particular where the Thrash and the KO ult was popped on the execute and you didn't see anybody or find any initial contact, you have to know that TSM is still lurking behind all of these smokes, and you have to have another follow-up piece of engagement or utility to try to delay that or take an extra step forward if you want to stay on site. I just felt like Blinn kind of got a little bit caught trying to do too much at certain moments in those post plans.
I mean, for Blinn, definitely a nice warm-up for this to see what can happen here on our map number 2 of the series. Of course, it is going to be difficult for them because TSM, especially coming off of a great performance on that first map there, well, they're now going over to their map pick of Breeze and Vans. Looking back at this, TSM quite strong on this map, and for Blinn, a team that has all these reps under them in the collegiate space. This is not a map that actually comes up for them.
Yeah, the only time they had to play it, or they were able to play it into a team at that caliber of challengers, is against Dobros during the promotion relegation, where they, you know, squeaked through a victory against Dobros by winning 14-12. They're playing a composition that plays a double duelist, so using the Yoru, as the initiator, but also adding a Cypher as their Sentinel player. Whereas for TSM, the slight difference is everything is the same as well versus Blinn, with the exception of using an Astra instead of a Cypher. So this is a Gen G comp that we're seeing a lot of value and a lot of good plays coming out of this team over at the VCT side of things. And that's the amount of lineups, pressure, and post plant utility that they could actually have here on their attack side. And not only that, they are able to have a lot of lurk plays potential because of a fast Euro TP, because of an Astra that could find like late lurks, because they also have like a Viper that could also be a late lurk as well for the team. So you're giving a lot of options for this team on the attack.
I mean, the fact that we're going to get, assumingly so, the Euro versus Euro face-off, I'm so undecided with how I feel about Euro here in competitive play shift, because when the Euro is properly enabled, when the Euro can get behind enemy lines, you get some good positioning, it can absolutely thrive. But that's going to be my biggest point looking at both of these teams, having that common denominator, who can set the Euro up better?
Look, Sierra, I'm old. My memory isn't great, but I do remember one particular moment. Maybe you weren't on the broadcast when we had this, but we also had the same questions about Yoru on Breeze. And then like 5 rounds in, it was like a highlight montage agent spotlight of how to play Yoru on this map. It's definitely, because of how open it is, it gives a lot of opportunity to successfully bounce things like your gate crash, also find good value out of the flashes as well that can come into play. So I think that, you know, as much as Yoru does feel a little tricky-ish, kind of like how we've talked about like Reyna in the past on maps like Icebox, for instance, this is a map that does play to his strengths. So it just comes down to making sure that those strengths are being utilized as part of a system and not just doing it all individually, which can sometimes be maybe part of the case with Yoru's. The good news is, and what I think we're seeing a lot of people do, is when you put a Jet with the Yoru takes more of a support role than an actual duelist role, where you're actually using him for the flashes and the ability to manipulate the map, where your Jet is playing more selfishly. So I think that's what people have really figured out, is the strengths of Yoru's kit is not to play off of his own stuff, but to help set up other duelists like Jet.
Correct.
I mean, I'm for some good Euro gameplay. I'm 50-50 on after the match being like, wow, that was absolutely fantastic coming up. I'm not talking about TSM in particular. I'm talking about any time I see a Euro. The other half is just like, man, Vans, I wish I could have more here. But considering for TSM, this is something they've been comfortable with, considering that it is, I believe, 7 over here on the Euro. This is definitely something that is hammered out for them, so it's going to be a little difficult for them.
Definitely the good thing about the Euro here for both of these compositions or both of these teams is just making sure that the Euro is able to help you create that space. So not only that, but it seems as though that the more Euro you're currently seeing here on these in these compositions, the more you're leaning towards B side hits or faster splits from middle to A. So it's not like the basic like, hey, let's wall up and go towards the A and go for a plant and play post plants. You're actually able to do that more towards the B side with that now. And the Euro also adds the extra layer of you being able to push down halls very quickly, open a door, TP away, and do different types of hits. So you're always consistently creating a lot of paranoia around players that are anchoring the sites. And both of these teams do play with that Euro, so they both have an opportunity to create that same type of paranoia and find great results.
I mean, we've set up this Euro versus Euro storyline here. It's going to be kind of funny if we get to Agent Select and one of the teams decides to drop it. But when our Agent Select is ready, let's get over to that and head on over to Breeze for our map number 2.
Yeah, sounds good.
We'll see a Killjoy.
Yes. No, I'm ready to see Deadlock be pulled out on Breeze. Goodness gracious. No, we're getting what exactly you framed up, though. You got the Sentinel of the Cypher on one side, you got the Astra on the other, so all that pregame talk is good. Now it's just down to, again, how does the execution look? Because for Blinn, like you mentioned, it was an escape, you know, almost a month ago when they played up against Dobros in the overtime, whereas this has been kind of a bread and butter, so to speak, for TSM, you know, kind of finishing out the regular season during stage 1. You know, and they also had a deep overtime match versus M80 in their one and only match they played versus the Mid-Season Cup. So lots to be desired, I would say, for both these two teams to start off this stage on this map with a win.
Yeah, there's always good pros and cons here with the composition that you have for TSM. Again, we just talked about how they're so good at delaying on post plans. But the thing is you're not playing with the Sentinels, so you're able to maybe be more proactive once you're taking a defensive side here for Blinn Esports and take control, be aware of these post plant positions where the lurks could be and do a buddy system to take that control and take them down. We'll have to see when that happens once we switch sides. But at least on the defensive side, what's still good here for TSM that they're able to play with this Astra in the composition is that they're able to use both of the control utilities on this B site to just try to prevent any type of quick pushes towards B. But the thing is you have to be more proactive in other places around the map because you don't have the active information nor the passive information of tripping holes and finding the camera at the right spots here with the lack of Cypher. So you're already seeing the proactiveness coming through as the pistols are about to come out. 3 players still looking to push down towards the elbow and get some early control on middle.
Important to note as well that TSM so far 2-0 on pistols against Blinn. So some work to be done there for Blinn trying to finish off some of these openers, but small footnotes. Those stats were going to be looked at more deeply as we get deeper into the season. This elbow push, though, this is either going to work out beautifully or terribly, depending on the timing that we're going to get. The gate crash actually gets Euro back into safety, but a Proto looks away at the exact wrong moment. So B wide open. Okeanos unsure of it, though. The spike is not committed to making through its throw of the smoke at the moment, but finally it commits, and there should be a pretty free plant here for Monzi.
And that's the issue there for TSM because they don't have anybody watching halls, but we'll hold that thought for a bit. Okeanos is already opening things up here on the attempt at the retake.
Yeah, Poise only able to take down one. This push back over to reclaim tunnel. And Okeanos for 4. Not quite able to get the 5th, but Teague right there to pick up on the trade. And here we go. They've been able to win their first pistol, and they do it with some conviction, only dropping 2 in the process.
So you saw at the beginning of the round, they had 4 players of TSM holding up towards the nest, walking down towards middle, the Sheriff from Sim at mid doors, and then you have one anchor player towards this A site being GMD. So what happens here once there's 45 seconds that are burnt here around the clock, there's a minute left, they're like, oh crap, we don't have really anybody watching halls. So now you're forcing a TP away from you towards the arches. You're forcing also Poised to fall back towards the back of the arches so they could support to make sure that there's no push it towards the halls. And it leaves a Proto down on an island, right? So
yeah,
we know what it's like here when you're playing against pirates and you're stuck on an island. They're going to be able to take advantage there and plunder your site.
Any more?
That's all I got now. That's all I got.
Oh, golly. I know it's like very secretly you're sitting here like, man, I want to cast more Blinn through this stage. Just
I'm looking at the library. I'm taking about my 101 dad jokes here about pirates only, and I'm trying to find some more.
Oh, no. Well, the opening kills here for Blinn looking pretty calm and collected. The Outlaws holding down that top vent side to start was not bad whatsoever. So Okeanos will be 1 off of having blades pretty much at this point. 7 nearby. Just classics though for TSM. And I imagine this will be one of those sacrificial throw our lives for ire here where we just wait for the spike to explode on us.
Nobody really hunting it down. I mean, Okeanos can maybe do it, or I think I'd like to see Monsi go for that because I'd love to see the value of the Hunter's Fury instead of Blade Storms when Blinn are already doing a great job here controlling this map for the first 2 rounds. You already see Monsi trying to walk back for a bit, but really because they've invested in a Bulldog and Mikey's a little bit too far away to switch over to a Sheriff for them to hunt down, they're just going to play the basics right now. For Blinn, have Mikey try to find some shots, and then for TSM, just die into the spike. So that's, I mean, the standard things as we see here against the anti-eco. And now for TSM, they'll just have to figure out now the 2 times that they're trying to, well, the first time trying to find mid control didn't work out. Second time they had a good stack here towards the A site, but they couldn't win the fights. And now Blinn has control of reworking that map. TSM still has to find active information of where the conditioning is starting off for Blinn at the beginning of these rounds.
And this is a thick bonus here for Blinn. I mean, you got a Sheriff upgraded into a rifle, the Outlaw still in play, Guardian to help at long range. And so, I mean, this is just about as even as it gets in terms of weaponry. Only major difference at the moment, and I think some of this influenced by the Outlaws, that there's a lot of heavy armor already been purchased here for TSM.
Yeah.
So the sturdiness of the health definitely favors them with a little bit of extra firepower, but not a round you want to count Blinn out of, especially considering they've done more with less, if you know what I mean, after they played on Bind.
And they're kicking things off early here for Brazil Esports, the signature angel that they did a lot here back in even the FPX days of just recon flash to get control behind the boxes and take some early mid control. So for TSM, they just don't want to be in the vision here of an outlaw and just jiggling to find the best cover possible. And there's Teague moving up, and it gives a chance here for Blinn to kind of split across the site and trying to do some damage towards B.
Well, the thing that's really intriguing about this, I was about to say, is they're allowing Teague to stay here for a long time, but Poise steps up, finds the first blood. Sim able to provide another that's both through mid-map, so now this hit has to come from the front. Mike does well to get the first and second. Sloppy shots from 7. So now all of a sudden it's a 3v3. Defense still has to rotate in, and there's good cover here with this wall initially put up.
Rare misses coming through. Poise has a shock dart where maybe he could land at the right spot, but instead it's Okeanos getting the pick. Maybe the shock dart's going to land right after, but there's a push coming up from Mikey in the back of the site. Not looking good for TSM. A full splat.
Oh, Okeanos so good with this outlaw, but Poise finds himself kind of in the Bermuda Triangle of Blinn players. And he turns it into a little bit of isolation, but good finesse for Okeanos to allow Mike to get back into the play, and he will find his third. And yep, there's that bonus that comes through. Blinn off to the races. 3-0 with plants in almost every single round, and TSM are reeling just on Sheriff's 1 Guardian.
Yep, the Bermuda Triangle set up here from Brazil Esports, but still able to weather the storm of TSM attempting the retake. And again, it just comes down to that simple mistake of trying to anchor those sights, or if anything, the simple mistake of missing your shots. Because Seven had two players dead to rights there while being decayed towards the ladder. And sometimes when the shots don't hit and you lose sight control like that, it's just so hard for the other players to rotate across. So that's just an easy GG, go next into the next round. And for TSM to just get their money right in this next round and hoping to get at least some sort of value with this double Guardian in round number 4.
Man, not great news here for TSM to start. Lots of map to be played, though. And a different setup here. A little bit more of a commitment onto Poise playing up in towards mid. But do they get a read that Teague is this far deep in towards Vents? Okeano's here for support. Seven not going to peek this, and rightfully so, considering he only has a classic flash on the way in. Gate crash gets him out of dodge. Really well done to at least keep the life and keep this at a 5v5.
They had a decent crossfire setup towards middle that could have punished here Mikey, but now this is a great opening for Blinn to work towards the side. No more flashes available though for the attack.
Oh, good isolation on GMD. Sim finds one from the backside of the site, but now he's stuck. Where is he? Good second, also tallied. Poised by himself though, and well, it's a Guardian versus 3. Spike gonna get planted. Okeanos also going up top. Barrel scene doesn't make a difference. The wide peak from Okeanos, and Poised gets diffed, and now it's 4-0 start.
And even if he did know he has the reflexes as a duelist to be able to land those shots, just a sixth sense to swing out and get that pick, that shows the continuous level of comfort that you currently see from Okeanos carried over from map 1 to map 2. But now we're into round number 4 where TSM's pulling out an early op, and same thing though for Okeanos. And I mean, this is already has to be like a tell from TSM that they would expect to play against an operator, because Okeanos already pulled out the Outlaw. And you talked about it. It's not going to have to be on the Jet anymore to really try to create that space, because you have a Yoru to do that for you, and you could actually just work that map on your different angles to try to get those picks here. And Sim starts off with elbow control and avoids the camera, which could be very good here. You got two players looking to move up very soon, and they might get caught off guard.
Just comes down to how much of this angle would Sim want to challenge, or vice versa. Would Blinn want to challenge? Oh my, I think we all were mouth-watering at the idea of a possible collat right there. But Teague is the only one to drop. Okeanos looking to kind of maybe force this 1v1, but backs off, and we're going to go to an early 5v4, 60 seconds on the clock.
And that's for Sim. He heard that dash away towards middle. So for TSM, they kind of know that there was just a default going through. Two players spotted towards the elbow, one player opting towards middle. So it's that 2-1-2 setup. And with Halls being watched here very passively by Seven, for TSM, they could also play a 2-1-2 and just play the crossfire on their side.
Well, we may get some contact here front side at A. GMD not checking the cave entry, which means this is a flat-out walk-up right on in towards the site. Poised also throwing shoulders, has not seen any of this. This Blinn catch, good timing, Spaz, good for the first. GMD though goes completely unchecked, but only finds one. Maybe could have won the round right there. But we go on, 15 seconds on the clock. Shock darts on their way in, and they are bounced pretty darn well. Denies the plan a little while longer. Plenty of time, though, still to get the spike in play. Okeanos in the corner, able to take down a Proto. And Spaz follows up. TSM caught a little bit off guard on their A setup. Sees Blinn find their 5th round.
And because they knew the op was there, posted up on the elbow at the beginning of the round here for TSM, Blinn had a feeling that there wasn't going to be anybody posted up or working towards the mid door, rotate very quickly. So they go for the gamble to walk towards the left side to play contact, and they caught a play off guard, which forced then GMD to try to make a play. Almost lined up two players, but unfortunately there for TSM, it was a perfect trade protocol for Blinn Esports to weaken out that A site and to get the plant. So a great way to convert a 4 versus 5, and it starts off now aggressively towards B. No kill.
Yeah, spends a lot of knives early, just trying to get up and aggressive. So all of a sudden, what is supposed to be the kill potential for the round has gone away. And the extra kills on top of that make this round feel pretty unwinnable now all of a sudden for TSM. You've got a commitment here from GMD. He's just trying to play out his life as best he possibly can. He does all right, but he does get faked out. Literally. Takes shots at the decoy of Teague. Flash is perfectly placed, and Teague making this look good, but Seven does at least make this more manageable with a double to come through, and now it's a 1v2.
Redemption. From whiffing the first shots here on the ladder. But it's going to stop there. At least he's finding his groove. But for Blinn, they're looking that they're carrying the riches right now. The chests are full.
Wow. I mean, this is a runaway first half. I mean, without question. 6-0. And this is another problem, kind of going back to Bind. It was a similar situation of TSM has had a chance at 2 gun rounds. So you really haven't even been able to get into your playbook yet. And you got to call a timeout to figure out what's going wrong. And that's just not what you want.
Oh, definitely. And on top of that, too, when you invested into your operator in round number 3 and you've lost that, a bonus round converted for Blinn, you're going to have to play catch up. And unfortunately, too, you're looking at these scenarios where it took a while. The frag distribution is not the best here for TSM. There's no heroic plays that are coming out here from TSM to try to get an ult up in these lower buys and these mixed buys that you may have to try to get value out of that. There was only Sim so far with the Blade Storm, but there's no follow-up of, for example, like a Hunter's Fury, something that could really try to go for a more aggressive trap play that they could do. So you're just going into the standard of like, okay, well, we're just going to have to play the long game on our end and try to salvage a couple of rounds towards the end of the half, which they did here on Blind earlier on. It was a little bit back and forth, but you definitely saw here that Blinn was having a better opportunity and advantage on their attack side, or defensive side, sorry. But at least now on the attack for Blinn, they're finding great value. They also have their own ults that they could play against now in round number 7.
I think most importantly, the ability to use the Dimensional Drift to maybe confirm a kill for Monzi if he wants to combo that with the Hunter's Fury. First Bloods have told the tale of a lot of this series to this point. And this is going to be a very deep peek, but wow, Proto actually does get a really good look at this hit coming down through mid-vent. So Dimensional Drift gets spent for Blinn, but TSM just back off and say, we're not interested. We'll have to play full retake here.
He was just banging his forehead onto the door, waiting for that to open as fast as possible. They mistimed that a bit where he can get too much of the timing around the ult, but at least realizing now that the site's secure, forcing now TSM to play a retake. They have their own Dimensional Drift with a Hunter's Fury that can really help here against the pit.
I mean, TSM is just putting themselves voluntarily into the blender, trying to isolate these kills. And we're going to use the Dimensional Drift here for a 2v3 with an operator behind it? Okay. Can Seven find some timing here? That's the real key. Sim gets on towards site, trying to find some sort of an opener. The fake out is in, but, I mean, we get nothing off of that. I don't know. This is not looking all that great at the moment for TSM, as they're going to drop a 7th round in a row.
Yeah, looks like it was a full start at the race for TSM. The idea there, again, those 2 ults were going to be very potent to play against and anti the pit that was set up here by Spaz. But because, again, they're tripping here at the starting line, they couldn't fight into the hallway. 3 players versus 2 at that point. The Allen getting hit on the trip, getting information that there's players right there, yet, unfortunately, TSM couldn't get the fundies to try to get the opportunity and get the upper hand to retake at least that first portion of that A site, which of course foils every other plan, but spoils at least for Blinn. 7 unanswered rounds, and to continue to work here, they only had to use 2 ults to make sure that the site was clear, to secure the pulse plant, and now they can be very aggressive towards this B site with the Hunter's Fury to follow.
I mean, Blinn's got to be looking at this like, hey, we can get double digits on this half with the way the economy is going, with the way the ultimate economy is going. This is just down to, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Although this is going to look very different. Operator out. Sim actually just threads the needle in between 5 different Blinn members. Seven, the first one to drop. Hunter's Fury trying to flush Sim out of the backside corner, and it will eventually collect the kill. Proto also seen and dealt with. And, I mean, this has been a masterclass from Blinn on offense.
Yeah, it looked like there was an opportunity there for TSM to punish a slight mistake as the dart kind of went off the map. But there was just too many players flooding inside this B side, and that's a tough part of trying to play here against flooded utility with a Euro flashing through, TPing close, and a Hunter's Fury that's usually focused here towards the left side of Castle when you're hitting that site, because not many players are really trying to hold out from Berlin these times because of the Viper wall that comes up on the hits on B. You just catch everybody off guard at this point. GND trying his best to save his weapon. Potential easy upgrade at this point.
Yeah. Well, the unfortunate thing is the weapon falls to the low ground, so GMD has to go down for it. And as he does, Mike will meet him. So no one will carry anything into the next round for TSM. Credits are low, to say the least. and times are becoming dire. I mean, I hate to frame it up to be so dramatic so quickly here in map number 2, but I mean, there has barely been a candle lit in favor of TSM in any of these rounds.
I agree. There's really not a single situation so far in this first half where you're like, oh, TSM has some sort of a chance here to play at least some retakes. They haven't had a chance to even get too many first bloods and map control on their ends. And I think it's starting to show a little bit that the playstyle here from TSM is not trying to get some early aggressive control towards these extremities. The Euro flash towards A control, trying to find some different angles. Now you're getting caught off even turtling inside the site with 10 seconds or only 10 seconds gone in the round. So right now it's full control of Blinn. Turtling up in the sites is not paying off on the end of TSM, but of course, this is a much lower buy that you currently see here for TSM, but you're hoping for them to be a little bit more proactive, just like they did, what, in round number 3?
Yeah.
When Sim had his operator and posted up towards the elbow. You need that type of control, especially, again, you don't have a Cypher in your composition, so you're giving a lot of lanes and a lot of openers for Blinn to work with.
It does feel a bit peculiar that TSM is essentially allowed Blinn to do what they want in the openings of these rounds. I mean, these executes have gone, I won't say uncontested, but largely so it feels that way. I mean, Blinn is not being tested before they say go. And it is a bit peculiar because this is not a comp that you would think for TSM that is built to receive full floods like this.
Yep.
I mean, outside of, you get a lot of weight thrown towards him, like you mentioned, to find first blood. So a bit peculiar. This one falling apart a little bit at the end here for Blinn, but it's not going to make a difference in the long scheme of things, as this is going to be a still one round, and Blinn's pockets are still pretty sturdy.
Yeah. I just love the, hey, we're just going to toy with our food pretty much at this point, with Okeanos just driving by left and right with that Vandal. But now 9 unanswered rounds and room to finally weather the storm a bit for TSM side. Of course, you can't really talk with each other through the technical pauses, but you're definitely cooling down a hot Blinn that's on a 9-round streak. And once again, with the amount of unsuccessful rounds that you have from TSM, you can't build up your economy. You can't bring up an operator that early once again. So how are you going to work this here on your side? If you need to take early map control, have you tried to push down towards halls? I don't think they have yet. But when actually they have tried it, where Okeanos was just reading the right moment at the right time and got an op pick there onto Sim. I do remember that a few rounds ago. So now let's see what happens at this point now for TSM as soon as we come back from the tech pause. But this is dangerous waters now for TSM for sure.
Yeah, big time. It's not often we see a game like this get flipped. Let's put it that way.
No,
we've seen things, we've seen 9-3 curses and some maps that end up being like super offensive or super defensive. But just like we said, like map 1, yeah, it was a tight one through and through. Ends in a moment where we sit there and say, like, there were a lot of winnable rounds for Blinn, just like one thing went wrong. So like we're still building up like the positive edge of like telling the hero story of this is how they could possibly still pull this thing out, pull it to an overtime. We don't have the same luxuries in this one. I mean, legitimately, TSM's getting beat on every part of the map.
Yep, and it's not offensive or defensive or comps anything at all. It's just Blinn offensive so far. Nothing is going to be working wrong for them. Even when they peeked out towards the elbow and got picked up by Sim, they converted a 4 versus 5 by working the map very well. And that was TSM after getting first blood, playing a little bit more passively and playing their numbers and turning into the site, given that space still in a big map like Breeze for Blinn to still work around that area. And again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but by giving up that space and not playing a sentinel role, this is still great opportunities here for Blinn to be able to convert these low number situations, because they definitely had the firepower, and you saw it from Okeanos as well, to turn it back in their favor as soon as you're getting some good map control and forcing rotates on your end and forcing the players to just run into your crosshairs and convert these rounds back into your favor. So that is a dangerous call right now for TSM to play as passively, and Blinn are looking to be taking over this first, or the second map rather, fairly easily at this rate.
Yeah.
And again, it's just from pure micro that comes in their favor.
No, absolutely. And it's just, who do you even look to right now if you're TSM? I mean, you can't rely on Sim to do it all. I mean, legitimately. No. And it does feel like some of the rounds we've seen setup wise have kind of been like, all right, Sim, like get forward and do the thing. But right now, you got to have a different level. You have something else in the playbook that stacks behind that, because we're getting uncontested openings for Blinn onto site. Like, you just feel like for TSM, you should be playing a little bit more, at least proactively. I won't say like aggressively, but be in a spot to allow players to go and get a 1-for-1 trade and contest these spikes a little bit more, because we're seeing 5-man post plants in almost every single round so far for Blinn. That just does not feel like the way TSM has played this map in the past.
Yeah, and a lot of these times too, we've just been keeping a proto towards this B site and a Viper towards the A site, right? So at this point for me, maybe you want to switch things around. I think one of the things, even though not as successful, that could be tried here from Leviathan when they had to play against his composition for Gen G, was just play around the orbs of Viper Molly, the Viper orb. So if you're able to place that Viper orb in front of that B site and force players to be decayed, the jet dashes across or their Euro TPs across. Now you're just focused on the players following behind, and hopefully you can like judge them decay or like go for spray decays or whatnot. Because right now the Viper util they're currently using for TSM is just a cross wall that they're using for retakes, but they don't have really good opportunities to play retake walls when they've lost full control of the back part of the map, because Sim and a Proto are getting punished in that area. So I think if you want to be proactive and not try to take map control, I think you could be proactive around the map, where you could use the smokes in your favor as an extra obstacle to avoid the flashes and the recon and the owl drones that would be coming out here from Blinn Esports. So hopefully this is going to be something they could maybe explore coming out from the technical pause, or if not, something new that they finally figured out here that Blinn has been doing that they could try to punish.
But we are hearing that this tech pause is because of a dead mouse, and the players are telling us it could be up to about 3 minutes. So we're going to step away for just a brief break, and
change the
while
mouse
we're
trap.
away, everyone, charge up your own mouses if you're using something wireless. And we'll be back with the continuation here of map number 2 right after this.
through with it again. They know that I got spirit with a pen. Don't know why they try to compete when they know that in victory it's never gonna end. Them man are weak, that's why they could never speak. They ain't like me, I take it to the peak. Different type of steeds that I breed. Wheel up on the mic, they won't get one of these. Please, I don't wanna hear no talk from them. I don't wanna see nothing at all from them. They can't do it like me. So all I wanna see really is a round of applause from them. Vibes in the air, we caused it again. Life isn't fair, but we rode it again. All of my teams being ready for the war, there's no warning for them. Tell them again, I ain't here to make up no friends. I just came through yet again. We look, you never got one of them. Top of the pound yet again. They can't stop this child now again. Reigning champ, I won't lose it. So you know I'm gonna win that again. Tell them again. Tell them again. Tell them again. Tell them again. I ain't here to make up no friends. I just came through yet again. We look, you never got one of them. Top of the pile yet again. They can't stop this child now again. Reigning champ, I won't lose it. So you know I'm gonna win that again. Tell them 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 again. I ain't here to make up no friends. I just came through yet again. We look, you never got one of them. Top of the pile yet again. They can't stop this child now again. Reigning champ, I won't lose it. So you know I'm gonna win that again.
about time to get it. It's about time, not forget it. It's about time. Never gonna get up now. Never gonna stop now. Whoa, you roll with me. Whoa, you roll with me.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the delay, but it is stuff that is out of our control, unfortunately. And as you, I'm sure, are getting re-familiar with the lobby, we're at a 9-0 count, but TSM have had a medical emergency with a proto, so Sherb will be stepping in. Not a lot known about Sherb outside of a couple of times playing in some lower level tournaments. So tall ass to step in and try to save this TSM map right here, Vansily.
Exactly. Sherb coming outside from the tier 3 scene. Most notably playing short games here in the Mr. Funhaver Invitationals with Nearest Airport, now having a chance to show his worth in Challengers, as he's usually playing an initiator role, by the way, now having to flex into playing smokes and also being acclimated to TSM strategies on defense, where they're behind 0-9. Big shoes to fill. And hopefully he could step up to the plate, whereas now it's starting off well, at least. First blood came in favor of TSM, and Okeanos is looking for an entry towards the B side. Again, trying to find mistakes, and I'm loving what we're seeing so far here. Passive plays, making sure you're not showing yourselves into the B site, and an opportunity to get first blood.
Yeah, and let's be honest, we were talking about, TSM kind of not really impressing us with the depth of their playbook. Maybe relying a lot on Sim to be their opener like he was a couple of different times on Bind. Now, all of a sudden, without Proto in the mix, you kind of have to figure that it's got to be the Sim show for TSM pretty much here on out, although Seven has something to say about that. And okay, 1, 2, 3 into the 4. And Seven will clean things up for TSM's first round. Okay, welcome back.
1, 2, 3 into the 4. You had me rapping there.
You're welcome. I was thinking of something about
Doggy Dr. Dre. Is that your door? Watch
Seven's Yoru's got you sitting on the floor. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't have it on me, Vansily. It's all it was. All right. I didn't have it on me.
Dude, I was actually clean though, and dropping bars. But for the redemption of Seven anchoring towards this B site, remember maybe half an hour ago when Seven unfortunately whiffed 2 shots towards the ladder, and now he's crispy with that 3K and a transfer. Super nice. Sim finding early info, misses the shot though through the cage, and he gets a chance now for Blinn to activate inside this A site very quickly.
Poised, just trying to hold off on the trigger a little bit longer, not to get baited by Teague, and well, this has gone not all that well right here for TSM. Short trying to rotate in from the deep side at spawn, Seven playing at mid-map, and it's a 5-on-2. And again, the thing about this, to kind of give you, again, re-status of how the game is going, is that TSM have not had an eco to play with the entirety of the game. And that is not looking like it's going to change much here, as Sherb is not the last one left, and he can't even get the finger on the trigger there against Teague. So 10-1 the count, and a big bounce back round there for Blinn.
Yeah, and I see chat, by the way, asking what a match medic is. Something that was actually very prominent in Attack FPS, especially in Counter-Strike back in the day, is whenever these pauses happen and you have to match medic, you have to get the economy right. So because we had an emergency sub, we had to replay the round at 0-9. So the match medic allows for you to get your economy right, the ult orbs right, and everything back to normal to its previous state before the round ended. If not, it would potentially be 0-10 and the economy is all in shambles. So that allows for us to now be back in the game. 1 round left in the half, 12th round on the board. Blinn, after such a slow and a long wait, they just want to activate really quickly here. And same thing for TSM, fighting towards main, getting first blood, and it's instantly traded out.
And it's just Blinn's pressure around the map continues to be super successful for them. And we've gotten a couple of rounds previously, and here again, their ability to stretch the map has really tested this TSM defense. Poised once again, trying to hold off on the trigger for the best possible moment, but Mikey will shut it down plus more as he gets himself onto 3, not able to transfer over for the 4th, but Sherb finds himself in a 1v1 with a full HP, full armored Okeanos. And well, Sherb, you could sneeze at him and he may fall over if he's not careful.
Pulling them in.
Biggest test right now for Sherb. 5 HP to walk up, pulling the smoke just to try to see if Okeanos is going to peek. That was close. But no welcome to the big leagues here for Sherb. Denied the frag and the clutch by Okeanos, and Blinn. Strong ending to the first half at 11-1, but remember, we talked about here for TSM, the strong suit of this composition is to allow to delay a lot and as much as you can in these pulse plants, and you're able to add a lot of oppression as well. Same thing as Blinn on the attack here with this double duelist and the Yoru to allow these plants to happen and to allow these post-plant delays to also work in your favor here for TSM. That said, though, it's not going to be the case for this round on Pistol. All 4 of them out of 5 leaning towards this A-side shop very quickly to potentially try to take control of Orb. You already see a star being placed up trying to fight against Okeanos here on this A side. It's being recalled instantly because I think that's a tell from GMD being like, hey, we're trying to do that, but don't let them know we're doing it yet. So Okeanos is ready for it because of that.
Yeah, it's a great opening shot, and I'm sure lots of footstep sounds were tallied by Teague in the corner there. Okeanos, a little sloppy here, but again, he's got Teague on his crossfire. No worries there. And, you know, the other issue here is not just the fact that TSM, you know, we were kind of maybe hopeful to see their offense come a little bit more to life, but all the strengths that are off of this kind of double duelist diving style comp with, you know, an Astra in the mix instead of a Sentinel like a Cypher is you have to follow up. Your controller has to be the one placing good stars and opening up the site. And, you know, again, this is not a familiar role for sure on a team that he doesn't play with. So it just doesn't feel all that great. And now Blend find themselves just one bonus away from taking the map.
Exactly. You have to be very coordinated at that point. And it's a tough thing to do, and especially when you're used to playing this initiator role, right? If you're looking at the past 60 days of what Sherb has been playing, the only controller role that he's played was a Clove once. Everything else mainly on KO and Breach. So maybe the silver lining is we're getting ready to head into Split at this point as the decider map, because Blend is looking to run away with this race on the second map. No opportunities here for Sim to entry as Okeanos scores first blood.
Top scenes, man. I mean, what do you say?
GG.
Yeah, pretty much. Feels that way at this point. Poise, GMD, sure, last 3 left. And GMD will get 1 at mid, and Monzi misses out on what should have been a free trade. But good Spectre shots from GMD get us back to level terms, 3v3.
Yeah, some room to breathe here as we still have a star available for Sherb. So when we talked about the tenure of this composition that's good for these post plants, they still have a Shark Dart with it as well. Unfortunately, just no Snake Bite for GMD. But there's still some good amount of utility so that they could play this post plant. But at this range, you definitely don't. You probably will not see them playing on the long range from A main, and probably have to gain more space now after the pulse plant towards the spawn to make sure that they catch these rotates, especially with that last star being used for TSM to be able to cross.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna get a post plant. Blinn are a mile away, so it's gonna be a while before this actually develops. But we at least can tally what's going to happen with TSM's post plant setup. Double hit through container. They are getting deep towards the defensive side. So this is all about how much can Poise see and read here on this cave hit, which is shift walking forward here. Mikey gets 1 for free forward, which will split the focus for this TSM post plant, but the clock may be the biggest opponent here for Blinn. They need to start making some moves forward here. Finally, they start to come through cave side. Poise gets the read that he wants. A couple of tags are in. That's good for the first.
5 HP.
And now you've got just holding on, trying to. Nope, sure. Gets the kill. Second round for TSM.
Redemption from Sherb on a 1v1. This time he's the one that has the most HP, and the one that has 5 is his opponent. Great delay being done by Poise overall with the jiggle with the stingers, and also getting the information despite the player dying towards the spawn, which was, I'm pretty sure, GMD. It gives them a chance to be ready here as to let them know Mikey is way too far. You could focus here to battle your individual 2v1 and do the hero play here for Poise towards A main. So well done at this point. This is, we mentioned a GG, but a great turnaround. That was what, a 3 versus 4?
Yeah.
To kick things off here and to rotate back towards the A site now, because of that buy from TSM against Blinn, Blinn stuck with pistols. So they want to play the long game, making sure their economy's right in the next.
All opening shots exchanged. Okeanos getting a little bit of damage in. Shock Dart could go a multitude of different directions. Decides to go over towards the corner. 7 still sticking for a plant in the midst of what is a lot of defensive damage, but GMD able to get the opener. So now all of a sudden with just classic pistols left remaining for Blinn, yeah, they're forward on towards the site, but a lot of confidence here that TSM hold the superiority. Here's the follow-up. There's a couple of kills for Blinn. Outlaw back out, and it's Sim in the corner, able to help out with Sherb to finish things off, and a 3rd round gets tallied up for TSM.
Okay, maybe it's labored, it's late, but it may start here for TSM because now your economy's right. You could drop some weapons for some teammates. And at this point, I mean, Okeanos going with a Vandal and small shields because they kept the economy low on the end of Blinn. So no opportunities to try to go for like a glass cannon, outlaw, or anything that could actually fight against the half shields that TSM currently has. But even if you're looking on that side, it's quite a healthy buy on that end and an opportunity to start cycling some ults and trying to get some map control here. And you already see that focus, maybe trying to get an orb here for GMD, or actually, no, he's going to lurk towards the hulls. So you might give it to somebody else here as Poise, for example, so you can try to play the pulse plan, and Poise will pick it up.
One off of getting himself a Hunter's Fury. Aldrone ready to breach in towards the site. Gate crash also could allow maybe a step forward if you decide to take that. Not going to happen. Could reveal onto Spaz. Keeps Blinn at bay a little while longer. Not much in terms of retake tools outside of what could be carried by Monzi. The first shock dart actually takes a ton of damage off of Sim, but GMD stepping forward, able to find himself one, and then the scale from 7 behind that. Good for a double. And hold the phone. TSM started to cook up a little bit here. Okeanos and Mikey for the last 2v4.
And that's also the beauty of having the Astra to pros, as well as not only the delays on the pulse plan, but also being able to disrupt the site. You see these stars being placed down by Sherp, not using the stars for the suck. They're helping actually TSM moving towards the site and trying to get early and aggressive positions to allow these crossfires, these bait and switches to happen in the pulse plan, and also break the economy once again of Blinn Esports.
Well, okay. Surely not, right?
Are we cast our blessing?
Could be. I'm here for it. Here for the story. Here for the Sherb story. From 0-8, 4-11. I mean, that's gonna be so unfair, man. This is gonna stick on his VLR profile, and he's gonna have an 8 death disadvantage to start. That's not right.
Yeah, but the OGs and the true storytellers will know that they were here for this moment here. In the VCT Challengers, knowing that Sherb has made the comeback of a lifetime for TSM on this map. 3 ults available. And that orb and that, should I say, the Owl Drone, sorry, is going to be able to spot one player trying to bait out the shots. And that's at least information, right? It's traded out, but that's information that there's 2 more inside the site.
Sim over the top of the wall also gets a read on more. Playing around these inner pyramids. TSM cleaning things up. Good intel transformation. And so now all of a sudden, you've got TSM not just winning rounds here, Vansili. They're dominating.
Yep.
I mean, these proactive hits, this kind of forward push on towards A has been near flawless through and through. And that's in the face of, I mean, look at the X's on the map. Blinn had every defensive player here with full weapons.
It's very similar to the storyline of how we praise Blinn on their attack side as well. And we were asking the question before, and we're saying, oh, well, in the past, when Euro is starting to come out and you're not playing double initiator on this map, you're kind of trolling at this point. But you're definitely starting to see how impressive this could be right now to have this Euro in your comp. Like all these TPs behind enemy lines, you can kind of do the flashes that are being thrown out at the same time. The dimensional drift to really set that paranoia and allow, on top of that, with the dimensional drift, to place the stars at the right point to add extra disruptness if actually the players can't really move out to spam behind a dimensional drift.
Yeah.
So there's some great plays you could do out of this composition, which Blinn could do the same thing minus the Astra util, which is why you're seeing this, and also the lean here on a more attack-sided map on Breeze these days.
I think the real question here, I mean, for TSM, is like, how much hand-holding do you do with Sherp here? Of like, hey, place to start here, place to start there, or do you let him kind of do what he wants and maybe get a little bit of, you know, proactivity and just initiation on his own?
Yeah.
Teague stuck in the corner. That will work out nicely for Burst Blood. Okeanos. Oh, what a shot on the Sherp. Hunter's Fury in the way in may still provide an opportunity, but Okeanos able to find one before dropping, and then Monzi follows up. So starting to build something for TSM, but now it's just on to Poise for a 1v3 to keep the map going. And he has been seen not once, but twice, 3 times. Blip again. We'll give him 4 times. So they know exactly where he's at. Poised is just trying to force something forward. No spike yet, but it's close by. First shoulder's decent. Bateson actually reads the second Chal pretty nicely. But the problem is he's not been able to isolate these shots. And this will be a double swing. No worries there. Blinn finalize what was a dominant first half, 13-5. And into map number 3 we go.
inevitable towards the end. I mean, you're winning the half 11-1. It's just a matter of time once you get your economy right here. And a nice shot from Okeanos on that burst from TSM towards that A side to seal the deal. You know, it took a while. At least you're starting to see some faith right now from TSM. And despite Sherb coming in last second, they were able to tally some very quick rounds, 5 on their side. And it gives us hope right now for TSM to continue to make this competitive in a third map. But chances on the side of Blinn now.
Big time. It's just such an unfortunate set of circumstances right now that are kind of plaguing TSM, and especially considering that, you know, when you look for an emergency sub, I think you'd be hoping for someone who maybe has a little bit more competitive experience under their belt, but who knows?
Exactly.
Hard to say.
I'm stuck playing. I'm stuck casting rather, so I can't sub.
That's fine. Yeah, I know, Vince, the people want you, all right? And if maybe not from a gameplay standpoint, they still want you. We'll say that much. We'll jump to a break before we get too loosey-goosey over here on the desk, and we'll be back with Sierra and a breakdown of map number 2 and a setup for map number 3 right after this.
Bye!